And Craig, Dave mentioned we want to talk to you about the 2025 NHL Draft because the Jets, as you know, have pick number 28. And it seems like we haven't really been spending as much time on the NHL Draft as maybe in previous years, but that's obviously because the Jets almost got to the conference final. But I think it's probably safe to say the Jets won't be getting Matthew Schaefer with pick 28.
Well, I mean, who knows? Players drop, and I can tell you what Kevin Shovel-Dayoff would say if he does get to 28. We can't believe he was there. We had him rated a lot higher on our list. Like,
I still remember in 2015 when we were in Florida and we were with Huss and Gary, obviously before he moved on for the Vegas Golden Knights, and I remember how excited you were that the Jets got Kyle Connor where they got him, and obviously that has turned out to be a pretty good pick. And there were, there's some other players too that the Jets have gotten, as you'd agree, Connor Hellebuck, namely, in the 5th round back in 2012. That's worked out pretty well. But we wanted to start asking you about some certain players. And obviously, we have you on every year to preview the NHL Draft, and we always have to mention that your Craigslist rankings aren't where you think the player is going to go. That's where you have the players personally ranked. And obviously there's a bunch of different rankings, but your rankings are the only ones we care about, Craig. So 28th overall, you have Sascha Boumedienne, and I'm old enough to remember when his dad played for the New Jersey Devils, Joseph Boumedienne. Obviously, again, it doesn't mean that the Jets are going to pick him. That's just where you have him ranked. But what can you tell us about Sascha Boumedienne, Swedish defenseman?
Before I get to Sascha, let me just get, we're going to do a mock draft on June 25th, which I have so much fun doing it. And really what I try to do is just say, okay, who could be a nice fit, based on, like obviously I'm not going to have Matthew Schaefer going to the Winnipeg Jets at 28. He's going to be in the number 1 slot. But, and I like to have some fun with it. And it's funny, I get comments like this. Well, you don't know how it's going to go. And I go, yeah, I do. I don't know. You're exactly right. I don't know. And the NHL teams don't know what they're going to do. The team at 5 doesn't know what they're going to do. They have to wait to see how things unfold in front of them. Now, obviously, as you get deeper in the draft, there's a lot more of the unpredictability. But the teams do a great job of identifying a group of players that might fit into a certain range of their draft, and this allows me to just kind of sing the praises of the Winnipeg Jets drafting and development. I don't think anybody does a better job in the National Hockey League than the Winnipeg Jets. There's teams that are as good. There's some teams that are close, but from 2011 till now, they just do a phenomenal job. I mean, you talk about Kyle Connor Hellebuck, who just won the Hart Trophy. Kyle Connor, first team All-Star left wing. Adam Lowry, the captain, the heartbeat of your team. Josh Morrissey, what was he, 13, I believe? I think he was number 13.
4th in Norris voting.
Yeah. You got Nikolai Ehlers, right? Like, and you think about where they get players and how patient they are in developing them and whatnot. I think they do a fantastic job. And I think the biggest thing is that I think is a real hallmark of success and the key to success is know what you're looking for and what fits your organization and go and get it, and then be patient with it. You don't have to worry about what other people are saying. You just got to be true to yourself. And the Jets do a phenomenal job of really working to mine as much information to find the players that fit what they're trying to do. So now, as you asked me about Sascha, I've watched Sascha for a long time now. And, he was a player that was always playing a little bit ahead of himself, playing up an age group and whatnot. It was no different this year going to Boston University and playing in the NCAA. In some ways, I think it really helped Sascha Boumedienne to play at BU. You're playing against older competition. He's such a superb skater. Like, he's a great skater. And I think when you're younger and you're a little bit better than everybody, you use your skating a lot of times to an advantage, but you also know you can use it to make up for mistakes. But when you're playing against older competition in the NCAA, you got to be a lot smarter with your skating. And I think Sascha really took that and really became a much better rounded defender and a much better rounded defenseman. His skating is no less phenomenal. Now, on the flip side, you can say, well, what about his points? Well, it's hard to get points as a 17-year-old defenseman in the NCAA. So, like, if he wanted to go chase that, he would have stayed in junior and done that. But I think that people can look at Sascha and say, well, what about the points? I think in time, look what he did at the U18s. I mean, at the U18, he was lights out great. Like he was lights out great, and the points are there. I think that Sascha Boumedienne will not be there at 28 for when the Winnipeg Jets pick. I don't think he'll be there. I think he's going to go earlier than that. And I mean, could he go in the top half of the first round? He could, but I probably see him in that 18 to 24 range. And I just don't know where you find defensemen like that. And if you've watched his progress, there's been significant progress in his game. And we think about defensemen that can beat pressure and get the puck up the ice either by their skating or with their passing. Sasha checks a lot of boxes, and he can play big minutes too. And I think that becomes a real factor, for teams and for defensemen that I clearly see him as a top 3 defenseman in the NHL.
Craig, Jets fans are always lamenting that there's not enough WHL in the system. And, when you look at guys like Adam Lowry or Josh Morrissey, we've got, of course, Braden Yager coming into the system next year probably with the Moose. From your perspective, a guy like Carter Bear, he's a Manitoba kid, so that checks a second box as a Manitoban. But what can you say about him? You have him projected 24th overall.
Yeah, he's going to go a lot higher than that. And actually, I have a final ranking coming out on Monday, and Carter's higher than that. And again, it's a pipe dream for the Winnipeg Jets to get Carter Barrett at 28. So no, that doesn't mean they can't go try to be aggressive and trade up to get a player. Carter is one of those what I would call one of those hungry goal scorers, one of those hungry offensive players. He plays inside the dots, he plays to the net, he finds a way to get there. He scores in different ways. He can score off the cycle, he can score off the forecheck, he can score off the rush, he can score by getting open, he can score by battling in front of the net. And you watch over the course of 2.5 years, and you just watch somebody that is just continuously taken steps forward in his game. And I think for so many young players, they're good, they're talented, and then they find, well, wait a sec, I can do more, and then they do more. And I think that's exactly what Carter has done. You put him with a really good offensive player, smart offensive players. He knows how to get open. He knows how to take advantage of it. He's going to find a way to produce offensively in the National Hockey League. So, while the Manitoba roots and the WHL pedigree certainly fit for the Winnipeg Jets. Unless they're trading up, they're not getting Carter Bear.
Greg, the next guy I wanted to ask you, and I know there's a lot of Jets fans that have, that they're looking at your rankings and they're trying to say, we want this player, we want that player. One of the guys whose name I've seen a lot is Ben Kindel. And as you mentioned, you're coming out with rankings on Monday. So these are based on your May rankings. So Ben Kindel might have gone up, but he's number 27 on your May Craig's list. So he's right around where the Jets are selecting. And he obviously had an incredible year with the Calgary Hitmen. Got his hockey DB up right now, 99 points in 65 games. What can you tell us about his game and his upside for the NHL?
Well, you think about the Winnipeg Jets and think about how they have different players that can play in different spots in your lineup and do it well. Ben Kindle, one of the things that I love about Ben is I call it lineup flex. He can flex through different areas of your lineup. He can play center, he can play wing, he can play left wing, he can play right wing, he can kill penalties, he can play on the power play. And he's going to need more time rather than less time to just physically develop. Oh yeah, well that's one of the great things that the Winnipeg Jets do. They let you get ready for the next steps. But Ben is smart, he's quick, he's fast, he's competitive. He's not anywhere near his physical maturity right now at this point in time. And when I watch Ben play, and I see that he conjures up images for me of Zach Hyman. He's not as big and thick as Zach Hyman right now, but I think that style of play where the forechecking, the grind on the boards, adding offense, playing with smart players, and the fact that he can do so many different things for a team and play in so many different spots in your lineup, I think that's really, really valuable. And certainly, I think Ben would be in that area of the draft, and he might go a little bit earlier. One of the things that happens, and I don't think it's right, is we watch the Stanley Cup playoffs right before the draft, and we look at, oh God, it's a grind, and it is, and you look at the players, oh, you need size and you need some weight and everything. These are still 17 and 18-year-old kids. Mm-hmm. And just because Ben Kindle is what his bio is now at his weight and height and everything, doesn't mean that's what he's going to be at 21. In fact, he's going to be bigger and stronger at 21. But players like this kind of get I don't want to say knocked down. That doesn't sound right, but they kind of get passed over a little bit by some teams. And I don't think it's right. I think that that's being too nearsighted and not projecting. And I think Ben's going to be a really good NHL player. I think he's, I hear lots, Ezra, oh, this isn't a good draft. And I just say, no, I'm not buying that. I see lots of good players well into the second round, well, even like, even like into the 60s. And yeah, we know that there's players that are going to merge from there. They're going to be good, but I see some really good players and some really good depth in this draft, and I think Ben Kindel is a great example of that.
Well, Craig, the Jets haven't taken a player from Michigan State since 2015, actually, as you mentioned that draft when they drafted Mason Appleton in the 6th round. Might they be going back there with Ryker Lee, who is committed to Michigan State for next season?
I love Ryker Lee. And when I watch Ryker play, I see a player a lot like Blake Coleman. Now, you guys can ask yourself, I'll ask you the question, you can answer. Does Blake Coleman fit what the Winnipeg Jets are all about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that to me is Ryker. Ryker is somebody that can score 20 goals, but he's going to create a lot of offense through his energy, through his effort. He's a good skater. His skating is only going to get that much better. Adam Nightingale is a phenomenal coach at Michigan State. So you also know that the player going there is going to get better, and he's going to develop along the path to get himself ready for an NHL career. And when I watch Ryker over the years, you just, again, he's another one that just, you watch, you see these things, and then you see a player just, when you go to bake a cake, you got to add some sugar, and you got to add some flour, and you got to add some yeast, and and the baking powder, and then you put in the ingredients, whatever you want, right? Well, that to me is what Ryker Lee is. He's added these ingredients, and now you're seeing this. Now you take the batter and you put it in the oven, and now he'll bake and he'll grow. But I think he's going to be a real tasty player for whatever team ends up getting him in the National Hockey League.
You're making me really want to have some of your cake, Craig. in addition to learning more about these prospects,
I try to use different analogies, Ezra. That some of them are apropos. Some of them might be a little bit out there. But hey,
no. That one, Craig, was right up our alley for sure. Another guy I wanted to ask you about, and again, I'll mention that Craig has more ranking. His most recent rankings are going to be coming on a Monday, but right now I'm going on your.
Can I just add one thing to you, Ezra?
Sure. Yep.
They're not going to change that much. Just it's
Sure.
little adjustments here and there. I just want. You're not going to see. Yeah. There was only one big change, and I'll share it with you here for me. And I kept evaluating, and I kept watching, and I kept sitting down, and I'm writing notes on them and doing analysis for what we're going to do. And that was Jack Ivankovic, the goaltender from the Brampton Steelheads. And I just kept saying, like, wait a sec, I can't keep comparing somebody to Dustin Wolf. I can't keep calling a guy a number one goaltender and sit back. And if I'm going to project it, I got to put a stake in the ground. And so that's the only guy you're going to see. I think he moved from 24, maybe 25, right up to he's 12. I got him 12 on my list now. And I don't think he'll go in the first round, but I'm projecting him.
Right. And I mean, I've watched him play a little bit in the OHL, and he's a fantastic goaltender. And I feel like you would agree, Craig, every year we're kind of talking about those goaltenders. They never get into the top 5, but sometimes they sneak into the kind of 10 to 15 range, right? But the one guy I wanted to ask you about, and there's a Winnipeg Jets connection here, is Lynden Lakovic. He's obviously a guy that, we talk about the WHL. We follow these guys a little bit closer. He missed some time this year, but he had a really impressive season, and he played with Braden Yager with the Moose Jaw Warriors before Braden was traded. I mean, again, it's tough to say because, like you said, Craig, the NHL teams themselves don't know how the chips are going to fall, but you had him ranked number 25. So, I mean, he is in the ballpark for where the Jets are picking. But do you see him, first of all, falling to the Jets at 28? And what do you like most about this player?
I don't think he'll fall. I think he'll be drafted higher than that. And I think that if they want to get him, you're going to have to trade up. And much like Ben Kindel, people say, oh, 25. Well, there's really good players in this draft, in my view. And Linden's one of them. You look at a list and you look at a group of players, and you're going to have your preferences. You're going to say, okay, If we have a choice of these four guys, this is one, this is two, this is three, this is four. Now the third guy might be gone, so that just pushes the fourth guy up. You're confronted with it. I think Lynden Lakovic would be an ideal pick for the Winnipeg Jets because he's big, he's strong, he's skilled. And I think, and he can play on the wall, and he can play at the net, and he can impose himself. He's a good skater. He's got that physical edge to him. And I think that when you look, and so now he becomes the flip side of watching the NHL playoffs and going, that's a guy who's already 6'4" and already plays a certain style of game. And I think when I look at the Winnipeg Jets and you look at, you're always trying to build out your team to be as strong as possible. But I really believe that Lynden would be a really nice fit. And maybe ideal is a little bit hyperbole, but you look at a player that with what his assets are, and he's a really good skater, really good shot, plays in the tight areas, again, he's tough to handle. He's tough to handle when he and as he gets stronger, he's only going to be that much tougher to handle. So I think that Lynden, as a player, if the Winnipeg Jets identify him as a guy they want to go after, I think they're absolutely going to have to trade up to try to find a way to get him.
Okay, Craig, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Jack Murtagh, he's committed to Boston University, I believe, for next season. What can you tell Jets fans about him? You had him projected, I believe, 32nd overall.
Yeah, Jack's a really focused goal scorer. Like he's somebody that he's deceptive, Dave. Like he doesn't look like he's going fast and he's by you. He doesn't look like he's quick and he's into the spot. And he scores in a lot of different ways. He can score with a shot. He can score on the rush. He's got really good hands in tight and ability to score in tight. And he's got that real hungry desire to score. Like he's a guy that wants to take the puck to the net and get the puck in and around the net and make it hard on defenders. He's going to force defenders to defend against him. It's not like, oh, we'll just push him to the outside. He's coming inside. He's coming at you. And those qualities that he has of goal scoring, but he doesn't give you the same look all the time. So and he's smart with respect to, he might give you that little burst of speed, and now the next time you're going, I better guard against this, and then he's got such a good shot. Now you're giving him space to get the shot off. Mm-hmm. So he creates multiple points of attack. He becomes a multiple threat because he can score in a lot of different ways. And again, a hungry goal scorer. He's hungry. He's hard. And if goal scoring was easy, everybody would do it. It's hard to score in this league. And I think Jack is a player that's got the will and the determination to get in there and pay a price to score.
Craig, we have one more guy that we want to ask you about for the 2025 draft. Then I think Dave might have a Jacob Julian question for you, because I think Dave might be the president of the Jacob Julian, unofficial president of the Jacob Julian fan club. Obviously, Julian just winning the Memorial Cup with the London Knights. But I wanted to ask you about Theo Stockselius, because in addition to the fact that he's got one of the coolest names that I've ever seen, he's ranked number 31 on your list. He's a Swedish center, just another guy. I think that's in the ballpark for the Jets with pick number 28. But what can you tell us about Stockselius's game?
I'm not hesitant. I love him. I I like, that's a projection. I look at him and I see where he is. He needs lots of physical development and physical maturity, and I think it'll come. He's long, he's lanky, he can skate, and he's smart. He's a smart player, and as you develop your game and you start to get bigger pieces of the game and bigger pieces of situations in the game, you can see confidence building. And I think as he continues along that path, he's going to be somebody that's going to become an even better contributor. Like when I watch him play, I see a lot of what Anton Lundell does. Now, Lundell went 15 or whatever he went in the draft, and I'm saying type of player. But when I watch Theo play, he can play the whole game. He's a good two-way player. He's a good offensive player, and he's in the mix. He's in the battle. He's in the hunt. He's no fun to play against. And as a player, a young guy like him gets a little bit stronger, and now he's going to be even that much harder because he doesn't go away. He's got a tenacity to him. He's got a determination to him. And when you combine good, solid skills and really high-end IQ, I think he's a player. And again, you start talking about a player that I think can be could be as good as a second line center. I keep going back to, where do you find, Braden Yager is a really good player. You can never have enough really good centers. And, the Florida Panthers drafted Lundell. He's a great third line center. Could he be a second line center? Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with having a great third line center either. And I think Theo has a lot of, I call it room to improve. And I think his room to improve is significant.
Well, we have a lot of room to improve on this show every year, Craig, but we always appreciate your time and your insight, especially ahead of the draft. We obviously always appreciate you joining us during the Jet season as well to share that. But just before I get to the Jacob Julien question, which, as he mentioned, I do have a question in terms of, I think every year we always ask you, who's your diamond in the rough? Who's your, maybe not a first or second round guy, but a third or fourth round guy that you think could project well at the NHL level that is not necessarily being focused on by everyone?
Yeah, there's always more than one player, Dave. There's always a number of players, and you watch different guys, and you watch how they progress. And one of the guys that comes to mind is Henry Brzustewicz of the London Knights. His brother was a really good player, and he's in a great program, and I'm using Henry as an example because we're going to talk about Jacob Julien, right? And you watch somebody that's so good with the puck. Yeah, he needs work in his game. He's got to work. If he was a better skater, he'd be a definitive first round draft pick, but he's not. So you got to work. But he's thick and he's heavy and he's smart and he's competitive. And in another year's time playing for Dale Hunter, there's no telling how good he could end up being. So that's certainly one player that I think is really good. There's two other players that I think, and they're both Swedish players, and I think they're both really good players. And they're not Milton Gästrin. I think is a first round pick all day long. I think that he's a guy that is going to be a player. Do I think he'd be a 50-point guy, 50-point in the NHL? Yeah, but I think he's going to help you win. And the other guy is Eddie Genborg. Eddie Genborg has one thing on his mind when he plays. He's fast, he's determined, and he punishes you. Like he is a player that all the good players in Sweden in his age group want to play with him because he's a guy. And I don't know if he'll go in the first round. He could go in the second round because there's so much to like there, but he's raw still. And I think you harness some of those things, and I think you could end up really getting a good solid player. One more player that I'll mention is Charlie Cerato from Penn State. It's amazing. I watched him at the NTDP for years. I go back and look at my notes, nothing really definitive. And then, you watch him in the USHL. Okay. And then he comes to Penn State and he was decent last year. And then you watch him this year and you go, whoa, whoa. And he's going to get drafted. And I think that there's a lot of upside there with this young guy. And he's a perfect example of be careful. Everybody matures and develops at different rates. And here's a kid that's done exactly that. He's been really, really impressive for me.
All right. Well, we're going to go away eventually, Craig, because it's time to go. We've used up enough of your time. Always appreciate your time and your insight here when you join us on the Olympic Curve Hockey Show.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Ezra.
Thanks so much, Craig.
Yeah.
There he goes. That's Craig Button of TSN.